All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
All right, we are back again on the other side of the coin. I am back home. The holiday was fantastic. As you guys saw, the streams from a holiday spot as Nishal was there for the match review against West Brom. But we're here to talk about a new match. We are into the Champions League phase of things. First leg of the quarterfinals, we've got Porto. It is a away leg, but in a neutral venue. We'll talk about all of that. But before we get into all of that, first of all, let's welcome Aaron. Aaron is a journalist who covers all things Portuguese league. He's got all the expertise in that particular area. So first of all, Aaron, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Looking forward to the game. Looking forward to previewing it. Thanks for having me on, lads.
Brilliant. I'm pretty sure some of the viewers might get thrown off by your accent, thinking they probably thought like some Portuguese journalist is going to rock up. So, there are other people watching the Portuguese league and living in different areas. So don't get worried about that. Nishal, my man, has things.
I'm very well, thanks. Very excited to be on with Aaron as well. We've been following his work for a long time. Big fan of his Portuguese work. But I can't say anything about the accent. I'm a Swiss journalist with a British accent. So we're in the same boat, but I'm really excited to cover the game today.
Brilliant. I've got a lot of people already logged on. Thank you so much for that. A lot more will join throughout the stream, and many will see after the stream is over. Chelsea were doing a live training, which was about 15 minutes late. So I think a lot of people were frustrated after the 15 minutes. There was about 3 minutes of tree stream where they were just focused on a particular tree. So thank you guys for popping into this particular stream and not being worried about the Chelsea's training. But let's get straight into it. I'll go to you, Aaron. Obviously, there's quite a lot of things we want to cover. And there's some interesting sort of topics in this particular match. First of all, Sergio Conceição, Aaron, as a manager, I just want to know from yourself, someone who follows the Portuguese league a lot, what is Sergio Conceição's, style or philosophy? And also, how's the fans sort of taken upon his management, the Portuguese FC Porto fans, I suppose, in regards to his management? Let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's quite split, to be honest, I'd say, with the FC Porto supporters, because what you've got a pragmatic manager and a manager who knows how to set up a defensively sound team and usually goes with a 4-4-2 more often than not. As I say, very pragmatic, relies a lot on experience, relies a lot on the older players in the team, and sort of puts the results first. And at the end of the day, football is a results business, and I think some fans just can't get to grips with maybe that, or maybe the playing style. But I mean, when he came into the club, Benfica had just won 4 straight league titles, so it wasn't a good period for Porto. So what he did, he came in, he won a league title in his first season, and then he had like a really good core group of players. A lot of those players have moved on in recent years, and I think this squad now maybe doesn't have the same amount of those characters in the team, those big names. You see each year those players sort of move on, and I think a lot of fans' frustration comes from the UEFA Youth League team, the one that actually played Chelsea and beat Chelsea in the final. A lot of people sort of had hopes for that generation that when those older players did move on, then we start to see the integration of these players into the first team, which hasn't happened as much. A lot of those players, the likes of Fabio Silva, Vitinha, Diogo Queiroz, have all sort of moved on, and there's only a couple there left who are from that generation. So there's that side of it, but then there's the side of it where, as I say, it's a results business. They lost the league the season after he won it, and then they won it again last season. So 2 league titles in 3 seasons, continually getting to the round of 16, the quarter-final of the Champions League. They're being unlucky, to be honest, came up both times against Liverpool when they did go far, and got a bit of a drubbing. But I'd say, this season, they prioritise being defensively sound, trying to hit teams on the break. We saw it against Juventus all afternoon. They welcome the onslaught. You've got the likes of Mbemba and Pep at the back, still going strong in his late 30s. So he sort of sums up the ethos of the team, and I think I'd like to think that he galvanises them to a point where the players want to play for each other. They want to play for him. He's got that sort of, just that real, like, as I say, I keep saying it, pragmatic, results-driven manager. And who's to say that it doesn't work, two league titles in 3 seasons. But I can also understand the frustrations regarding perhaps the style of play and perhaps the calibre of player that's at the club compared to previous seasons. So it'll be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've not watched too much of FC Porto. I did get to watch them a lot during that Juventus matchup. From what I could see was they were very organised, very disciplined, very organised. And it feels like Sergio Conceição has them playing a particular style, which is, as you said, pragmatic. And they really believe in that. Every single player believes in that and keeps it to that point. Is that how you sort of see it as well, that this team, it's not like they're out there playing, very beautiful Brazilian way of tiki-taki sort of football, the Barcelona style, but they're very, very, efficient in what they're doing. Is that how you see as well, how Porto lines up?
100%, yeah. I think, as I say, the players, there's an identity there, and it's clear what the manager's message is. But for that to work, if your emphasis is always going to be on being so defensively sound, every player has to buy into it, because as soon as you get someone that doesn't quite buy into that and wants to maybe exercise a bit more individual, say, liberty on the pitch, that's when things can fall apart. Because when you're coming up against sides that you might only have 30, 35, 40% possession. This is in the Champions League, by the way. In the Liga, they still will aim to dominate the ball. But as I say, it's those matches, the Juventus match, where you've got to stay switched on at all times, because you're not going to have a lot of the ball. So you've got to be aware. You've got to know when the right time to press, when the right time to counter, because, if the transition isn't right, that can cost the team. If you're caught playing with the ball in the wrong area, that can cost your team. So I think, it is maybe that goes back to the whole thing with the experience over youth, because it's all about the defensive responsibilities on the players. Young players might have a bit of a more difficult time adapting to that, because young players are quite a bit of a generalisation, but usually when they come through, they want to express themselves, they want to make a name for themselves. It's a bit more individual over the team. You get someone like Pep at 38 years of age, 37, 38 years of age, he's not playing for himself. He's not. The world knows how good of a central defender he is. So he's already in that mindset where, no, I'm playing for the team, so I'll do everything I can for the team. Whereas I think he thinks he can count a bit more on those more experienced, the wily players, the ones who've been there and done that, as opposed to the younger players in the academy. But we've saw some of them be, bled through this season. And when we talk about players to watch, there's a player I want to come to who's very young, but we'll come to that.
No, absolutely. No, well said. Nishal, let's now talk a little bit about Chelsea here. We're coming into this match in a strange feeling, man. I think majority of the fan base were up here, and then as soon as the West Brom match sort of finished, we're all down here at the moment. And it's come at a bad time where you really think that we should have won that match. Moving into this game against FC Porto, we should be absolutely, energized and looking forward to it. Whereas Thomas Tuchel, Nishal, has come out and he's said a lot of things which kind of made me feel like he had a reality check in that particular match against West Brom. One of the things that he said was that, he did not expect to capitulate in that manner as soon as the red card happened. We were still a man up. Yes, we were a man down, but he did not expect that capitulation that took place after that. He expected the team to be able to manage that situation and see through it. From your perspective, Nishal, do you think, Thomas Tuchel just says to himself that this surely is just a blip and we just got to move on? Or do you think he may start thinking that, no, there could be one or two suspects in this particular squad that I just need to be a bit weary of, and moving forward, I just need to keep the check as to what's going on?
Thomas Tuchel doesn't really strike me as a sort of manager who has one defeat and then just completely loses his rag, gets panicky and thinks, right, we're over, what are we going to do now? He's not that sort of manager. You know, there's a reason he was 14 games unbeaten, winning Champions League quarterfinals and so on. So, yeah, it was a bad result, and it was a reality check we needed, because that unbeaten run was never going to last forever. You know, as much as we were enjoying having not lost a single game, conceding twice, that was going to end at some point. But the issue, like we're all saying, is the way in which it ended, you know, being smashed at home by a West Brom team 19th in the league on the verge of relegation. It wasn't good enough. And there were a lot of holes that we saw. But the thing is, with all the mistakes and the errors and the flaws that we saw in that game, none of them are new. You know, our defence about Thiago Silva being poor and underwhelming, that's not new. We knew that we weren't a good defensive team without Silva. And even then, when he was out injured, we had that core of Christensen and Rudiger come together. We knew we didn't have that cutting edge up front. You know, look at Werner having to square it to Mount. Look at all the missed chances we had in the first half. None of these issues are new, or should they be surprising. But the way we fell, conceding 5 goals at home, losing in that manner, of course, that's going to be disappointing. It's something we have to pick ourselves up against. And it is a difficult game to follow up against. You know, if it was a league game like Crystal Palace on Saturday, sure, that would be okay. Another manageable game that we can win. But Porto isn't going to be easy. We know this. It's a Champions League quarter-final. We know they're at the top of their game, defending Portuguese champions, and it's not going to be an easy game. So really, if there's any game where this couldn't have come before in a worse situation for us, it is a Champions League quarter-final. So we will have to pick ourselves up. It's a character test. How can we bounce back? How can we show our worth? How can we prove ourselves again that this is just a blip rather than a long-term issue?
No, absolutely. Just before I go to Aaron for the next phase of questions, Michelle, how do you... A lot of people, since that defeat, obviously there's been some commotions with Rudiger and Kepa. Apparently there's been some situation where Reece James apparently had private sort of conversations with Azpilicueta about certain things in the match, and they sort of cleared the air with that. And Thomas Tuchel has said that we can't lose our head off the back of that particular loss. We've played well since he's taken over. We cannot forget the fact that we need to trust that particular work that we've done so far. So how do you look at that? A lot of people, I personally think in regards to the whole Rudiger situation, look, I don't know the ins and outs as to why the bust-up happened, but all I know that bust-ups happen in the football club, bust-ups happen in all other football clubs as well, not just at Chelsea. And someone like Rudiger, I mean, what do you expect him to do when he sees his team gets clobbered 5-2, as you said, against West Brom 19th team? Do you feel like this is probably the right attitude the players need to have, that they need to hurt after that, but at the same time don't get overboard, but come into this Porto game knowing all of the hard work, you know, to trust the hard work that they've done previously?
To an extent, it shows the right attitude of wanting to be better, wanting to improve, and really challenging and pushing each other to the limit. But to be honest, I'm not reading much into it. Look, like I said, bust-ups happen. You know, you can think almost every day in every club, in every training session, there's going to be some sort of altercation, whether it's physical or just a few words. It happens. It's nothing to read into. And naturally, this is going to happen after a big defeat. So, you know, I can understand why there's a lot of attention to it and why people are asking questions about these altercations between Rudiger and Kepa or James and Azpilicueta. But honestly, it's not that deep, to be really honest, right? Focus on what we're doing on the pitch. We're still doing well. It's 1 defeat in 15, even 1 defeat in 16, if you stretch it back. And you know, it's something we shouldn't be stressing out too much about. But it does show that all of these players want to do well and want to really push each other. Because yes, we heard about these altercations and these issues under Lampard, but that was perhaps for a different reason, where we're in a real rut. We weren't doing well enough, and there were a group of players rather than maybe 1 or 2 that weren't performing. So yes, it's something to keep an eye on. It's something to acknowledge that the players have that fighting spirit, and Tuchel wants to instill that into the club. But it's not the end of the world. It's nothing more than a few words, and then just move on, focus on the game. So really, nothing to have real concern about.
No, absolutely. Alonso came out and said the same thing as well, that bust-ups happen and it is what it is. Aaron, let's now talk about the neutral venue. I mean, does that impact Porto? By the way, I'm not quite certain. I did watch that match, but I can't remember. Was it a neutral venue against Juventus as well, or was it a home leg at Porto and another? Obviously, the second one I remember was at Turin. So, you know, this neutral venue situation, does that hurt Porto?
I don't think, not particularly. I wouldn't read too much into it, to be honest. I think especially especially with the way games have been played over the last year and a half now, has it been? Since obviously the fans haven't been in the stadium. You know, that makes a big difference, obviously. But in terms of, I think if they would have played the one game in a neutral venue and then had to play in Stamford Bridge, I think that would have been detrimental even without the fans, because you still, even without the supporters, you still get that sense of you're at home, you know the pitch, you know that it's the routine as well. A lot of people forget that the match day for players is a lot to do with the before it. You know, where did he stay? What you know, they know the routine. That's why league matches, teams are, you know, more comfortable playing at home than going somewhere that they might only go, you know, once a year, once a season. And but I think this season, I think the fact that both the legs are going to be in the neutral venue, and it's somewhere where, you know, neither team feels more comfortable than the other there. They're both going abroad. They're both going to a different country. So, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it, to be honest. But I think, I mean, it's disappointing because I think it does add to that. One of the big negatives and one of the big things that people speak about in this sort of post-pandemic football is these matches can feel a little bit like training ground matches. And I feel like when games get moved to neutral venues, that's exacerbated even further, I think, for me personally, just watching it, because even without fans in the stadium, you still get a feel for the stadium. You can still, you know, the team is going away to, you know, for example, if it's a stadium that's, you know, known for being difficult, regardless of the fans, it can still have that aura. Playing in a neutral venue, it's sort of like it has got that little bit of a training ground vibe to it, which is obviously disappointing. And you could say, well, a final's in a neutral venue. Yeah, I get that, but a final is one match. There's a lot at stake, and it's usually occupied by fans. So I wouldn't read too much into it, to be honest. I don't think either team has an advantage being there. I'm sure both teams would have liked to have at least had one leg at home. The home and away away goals rule still stands, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's an away game. The first leg is an away game for Chelsea. So it's a home game for you guys, for Porto, and then it'll be the other way around. But it's the same venue.
It is bizarre. I mean, I do think that's bizarre. But I mean, I can see why people are frustrated with it. But I can see also why UEFA don't remove it, because they feel like if some games can be played at home and away, and then some games have to be played in neutral venues, then when you start messing with rules in terms of away goals, and this team went through on, you know, it can create a little bit of a kerfuffle. So the easiest thing is probably just to still have home and away goals. But I mean, it'd be disappointing going out on an away goal that's scored in a neutral venue. But I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it? So
strange feeling. You're so right, Aaron, to be going out on away goals when it's a neutral venue and you've played two legs there. Michelle, let's start talking about some forms now. Let's talk about Chelsea form. Look, when you take away the West Brom loss, it's actually been good form. I don't know why in social media certain fans or certain parts of the Chelsea fan group has been going around thinking it's all chaotic at the moment, it's all havoc. When you look at it in a broader perspective, and as you said, Nisha, we've played 15 games under Thomas Tuchel, is that right?
Yeah,
and one loss in 15. I think about 3 or 4 draws, and the rest were all wins. So overall, the players really need to say to themselves, we're actually in form. I do think, though, however, Nishal, the international break creates a bit of a, you know, that blip in the middle. So all of that momentum that was there and that form that was there, that 2 weeks where the players sort of get dispatched and they go to different areas, that creates a bit of an issue. But from your perspective, what would you say about Chelsea's form?
I'm still happy with Chelsea's form. Look, no one is going to be pleased or, you know, in good position after that defeat, but it's one defeat in 16 games. That was our first defeat since January, which says enough. And of course, people are always going to overreact. We know what the Chelsea fan base are like, you know, losing their rag at every single defeat or draw. But it was a situation where, look, we're still in a really good run of form. We're still doing well. And like I said, you can see why there are issues about the result. You know, it wasn't good enough. We conceded the same amount of goals in 90 minutes that we did for the last 16 games. So understandably, there's going to be concerns and there's going to be an uproar. But at the end of the day, we're still in this position, you know, we're still battling for top 4 and in this Champions League quarter-final, so we shouldn't be worrying too much. Like I said, the international break is always difficult, you know, ruins momentum for clubs. It is what it is, and especially for Chelsea, where you've got the majority of players going out on international break, and you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi coming back from the Euros with a shoulder injury, and N'Golo Conte coming back with a hamstring injury, and now Christian Pulisic coming back with a hamstring injury from that bizarre half-time warm-up, which was ridiculous. But look, this stuff happens. We're going to be in this sort of situation where we're coming back from this defeat, but we have to remember a bigger picture. We're good enough to be at this stage. You know, we beat a very good Atletico Madrid side over 2 legs, something which, if you said in December, not many people would have been so confident about. But if we see how we dictated both legs, we can be confident. And like I said, after we beat Atletico Madrid, we can go on and win the whole thing. We can have that confidence if we're past that stage. And yes, Porto isn't going to be an easy test, but we're at this stage and in this position with Thomas Tuchel, where, you know, he's manager of a month, he's lost 1 game in 15, he's in a brilliant position. You know, we're in a really, really comfortable position with Tuchel, and with away goals. Again, like Aaron said, you put it perfectly. It's a weird thing where you have the same stadium, away goals still count. The only advantage I can think of is that Porto have much less to travel. They're just going across the Iberian Peninsula, maybe hour and a half or something. Chelsea, it's about 3 hours journey. That's it, right? So, and apart from that, the advantages aren't there. But for Chelsea's form, we shouldn't be too worried. It was 1 defeat. It was 1 blip. We're still a good team. We're still in a good position, and we can still come away with a win.
No, absolutely. There's a really good comment here from Samarat Singh. Samarat Singh, thank you so much for this particular comment. Sevilla is like a home for Porto. They don't need to travel a lot, as you said, Nisha. They really don't need to travel a lot. Yeah, our form really, if you look at it in a broader perspective, it hasn't been that bad. Yes, we've just slipped away from the top 4 in the Premier League, but there's still quite a lot of matches to still come along, and you know, our rivals got matches that are very, very crucial for them as well. And in the Champions League, we're in the quarterfinals, first leg. We're still in the mix in the FA Cup, so still a lot of good stuff happening. Aaron, let's now talk about the Porto's form here. Let me just make this bigger so everyone can have a look. Porto are second in the table in the Portuguese league. Sporting Lisbon, obviously, with 65 points. Porto with 57, with the same amount of matches played. First of all, before we get into all of that information from you, so I just want to have a look as well, you know, what their recent form has been like as well. So as you can see, you know, that win against Juventus since then, another win against Maritimo. There was a draw against Sporting, one against, they lost it. Actually, hold on, is this? Yeah, here we go. Let's start from the second leg. So obviously they went through against Juventus. Then they beat Pacos Ferreira in the Portuguese league, and then also had another win there. Then they beat Santa Clara. So since the Juventus sort of, although they lost, but they went through, they've actually been in pretty good form. And if you look at the Champions League form as well, besides that loss against Man City right here, let me just make that a bit bigger. Besides that loss against Man City, there's been some strong results against Olympiacos, Marseille, that draw against Man City as well, 0-0. Overall, from your perspective, Aaron, you'd say that they're in a bit of a form right now, Porto, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, they've been a little bit, I described them in another preview as being a little bit Jekyll and Hyde this season in terms of their league performance and the Champions League performance, because a lot of the players have, especially amongst the fans, have been dubbed like Champions League players this season. So players who have turned up a lot more, the likes of Luis Diaz, Pep, who's had some injury problems in the league and has been a little bit inconsistent. But when it comes to the Champions League, they just turn up. You saw there, they only conceded in 1 game in the group stage, and that was the opening day against Man City. And that's a match that still frustrates me because Porto went 1-0 up, and then with denied
you're right. There's just the one conceding. There's just the one conceded goal.
They had a clear penalty, wasn't given, so there was uproar about that, and obviously being very impartial there. But it was a clear penalty, and even with VAR, I couldn't believe that it didn't get given. And you think if that with Sergio Oliveira from the penalty spot, he's just fantastic. He's been amazing this season. His conversion rate has been ridiculous. I think if he takes that and you go, sort of 2-0 up, then the complexion of the game changes. He might not still go on to win it, but they end up going on to lose the game 3-1 with 2 goals from City in the second half. So it is what it is. But I think they came away from that and they weren't disappointed, even with the scoreline, because they played well. And then, as we saw in return, like the 0-0 held them off. Olympiacos and Marseille had a bit of a disaster in the Champions League this year, but they were still under André Villas-Boas at the time. So he's that with the old manager coming in, and they finished second in League One last season. They were very strong. So it was a difficult group. A lot of people predicted Porto to struggle there, but no, they made light work of it. As I say, clean sheets in every game bar one, and then they've picked up the Liga form recently as well. They've had some disappointment.
Are they still in contention in the league, or they've sort of given up on that?
Well, last night was a big one for that, because Sporting conceded a 91st minute equaliser to Moreirense. They're still unbeaten, man, but it would have been 10 points. That's been cut to 8, and then you're now starting to look at the fixtures that they've got, and a lot of Porto supporters who maybe given up hope. I mean, 8 points is still massive, because you need not only for Sporting to drop those 8 points, but then at the same time Porto to win every single game. Which to be honest, I don't think either Sporting, Porto or Benfica will win every game from now until the end of the season. There's 9 games left. There will be slip-ups along the way. Benfica have still got to play Sporting and Porto, I think, both at home. So it will, it'll be an interesting one for sure. It'll be interesting to see if Sporting can go on and do it. They haven't won a league title in 20 years, and then there's been the whole thing of, Porto going this far in the Champions League is maybe detracted away from their league form, going so far in Europe, which but obviously that's always going to be the case. If you want to play at the top level, if you want to play in Europe, then you've got to put up with that. And you were saying before, there's a bit of a narrative surrounding Porto or a Portuguese team when they get to this stage, that they're sort of maybe the odd one out, the team who they're the ones who aren't belonging to the top 5 league. Usually it's an Italian, a German, an English, and a Spanish club, and then the likes of PSG. I was going to say a French club, but it's PSG usually, isn't it? And but they continually get through the group stages. They continually get to the knockout phases, and this sort of that odd one out thing. But I mean, if you ask, you ask the Porto supporters, you ask the adepts, they believe that this is where they're supposed to be. This is where they belong. 2-time European Cup winners. So, I mean, no one has a right to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. It has to be earned, and they've done that this year yet again. So they'll just be hoping it's not another case of the last couple of games against Liverpool.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't think it'll be that. I don't think it'll be a repeat of that. I think it'll be a much stronger performance in terms of they're missing a couple of players, but I think defensively they don't look like the same side that can ship that many goals. I mean, if they can keep it, as you were speaking about the West Brom game,
we don't look like we can score either.
Yeah, as soon as you go down to 10 men, things do change rapidly, and it's how you cope with that. So, I mean, that's a big thing. Porto, if they can keep it 11v11 and they can, sort of stay in the game, then they'll be hoping to do what they did against Juventus: defend deep, play on the counter, press well, pick the right time to go. Don't leave themselves exposed at the back. Everyone will be playing for each other. There'll be players that will be, dying to get on the end of things, getting the body in the way. It won't be an easy task. Probably won't be the most aesthetically pleasing game to watch, but as I say, that's Sérgio Conceição. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. A lot of people are wanting to know about the players that are going to miss out. We will get into that. Don't worry. We will definitely touch on that. Just quickly, I do want to look into some of these insights that I've just bumped into just a moment ago. FC Porto have lost 5 of their 8 UEFA Champions League games against Chelsea. Win 2, draw 1, only losing more against Real Madrid in the competition. Chelsea have won 75% of the UEFA Champions League matches against Portuguese opponents. 9 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, only winning more games against Spanish teams, 13, than against those representing Portugal. This will be only the second knockout tie between Chelsea and Porto in the UEFA Champions League, with the Blues progressing 3-2 on aggregate during the last 16 of 2006-07 edition. Since winning the UEFA Champions League in 2003-2004, FC Porto have only won one of their 6 games in the competition at the quarterfinal stage. This is something that Aaron was sort of alluding to. The last such victory came against Bayern Munich in April 2015. However, they were later eliminated 7-4 on aggregate. Following victories in both legs against Atletico Madrid in the round of 16, Thomas Tuchel could become just the second Chelsea manager to win his first 3 games in the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League. The previous manager to do this was Roberto Di Matteo in 2011 and 2012, the last time Chelsea won the competition. So a little bit of cheeky insights there about this matchup. Let's now get into the notable players that are out of these fixtures. A lot of people wanting to talk about this. I'll go to you, Nishal, first up. A lot of people have seen Kante live in the training session that the Chelsea YouTube channel were showcasing that. Kante has been training. Pulisic has been training as well. There was some talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi picking up a knock in the international stage. But I personally can't see how Kante starts this. If you had that injury, you didn't play against West Brom, you're just coming back into training, I'm not sure if he starts. So for me, that's a notable absentee. And Pulisic as well. I mean, how can a manager, Nishal, trust this player at second half, walking in, having a jog, and then saying that he thinks that his hamstring, he's not going to be able to move on, and the intensity is just a bit too much. I mean, for me, I can't see how Pulisic starts. So for me, these two are the two notable sort of players that may miss out. But from your perspective, do you feel any other players? Talk a little bit about Tammy Abraham. Do you reckon Tammy Abraham has any chance? Because he's been out of the squad, and there's been a lot of talk from Matt Law and his article as well. So what's your thoughts about some notable absentees?
Well, Tuchel will be speaking live in his press conference at 1 p.m, so in about an hour. So we'll get official confirmation then, but I'd expect N'Golo Kanté, Christian Pulisic, maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi to miss out. Kanté, most likely, he said against West Brom, Tuchel did, that he was going to miss West Brom and most likely Paul. So he could be back in training, but that may not mean he's playing. Look at Thiago Silva a few weeks ago. I think he trained before the Southampton game, but he was still left at home because he continued his recovery. So N'Golo Kanté, I'd be very, very surprised if he travelled with the squad at all. So I'd expect to see him left at home. Christian Pulisic as well. Look, it's a hamstring injury. You're not going to come back from that within a few days. And we saw that video. Yeah. When I saw it, I was just shocked. Like, how can you... And my main critique, well, not critique, it's a bit harsh, but 22 years old, comes out to do a light warm-up before the second half, and his hamstring goes. Very, very worrying, And it's not the first time we've had injuries.
And it's worrying for the manager as well, Nishal. Like, you don't know whether this player is going to last the game.
Yeah, and not to mention, we've got 3 wingers, 2 of them are injury-prone. Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic. That's... it's harsh to say, but that's not good enough, and that's not going to fare us well for the long term, especially when we've got one of them being a young winger, one of them entering his prime. So Pulisic and Kanté, I'd expect to be left at home, maybe on the bench at most, but I wouldn't expect to see them playing. Callum Hudson-Odoi, of course, he picked up that shoulder injury again, or just before Portugal in the under-21 Euros, but he was on the bench on Saturday, so he clearly could have come on if he needed to. So he should probably travel with the squad, and we'll see how he feels. If he takes part in the afternoon training today, when the team land in Sevilla, we'll see. But I wouldn't expect to see him start from the beginning, given he's got that injury. Now, Tammy Abraham is another really difficult dilemma because I want to see him play. We know he's good enough. He's still our top goal scorer of this season and last, but he's not been playing enough since he picked up that ankle injury against Newcastle in February. He's not played. He's either been brought up at half-time, he's not started, he's not even been in the team on a number of occasions, and it's really concerning because a lot of these situations where we've asked, where is Abraham? And it's not a case of he's injured, but Tuchel says there's not space for him in the squad. And when you consider we've got 9 substitutes, 20-man squad, and our top goal scorer can't even get into it, it's a real cause for concern, and it's a real issue that we have to be addressing and talking about. I do still think he has a future of a club. It is being optimistic, it is being hopeful that he will stay at the club, but it's not looking great for him because Timo Werner is always going to be above him in the ranking, being this new striker we brought in. If we buy Erling Haaland, let's be honest, it's over for either Giroud
Yeah.
or Abraham, and are most likely to leave out of them. Even though Giroud's contract runs out in the summer, Abraham is more likely to leave because he's got 2 years. He runs out next year, but he's also younger. He's got his whole career ahead of him, and there are a lot of clubs who would gladly take Tammy Abraham among their ranks. So it's not looking good for him, and you can't deny that. But we still believe in him. He's still a quality player, great striker. We've seen his quality under Lampard, under Tuchel. We know what he is capable of. But the question is, does Tuchel still believe in Abraham? Does he still want to play him? Honestly, I don't know. And it's really hard to answer that question because we're not inside his brain. And from what we've seen from the outside, it is a really difficult situation. So hopefully this isn't the end. And, tomorrow will be a test and sign. Does he start? Maybe not. If he doesn't even make the squad, the travelling squad, then you really have to ask questions. But, we'll have to see who makes the squad when Tuchel speaks to the media in about an hour.
No, 100% agreed. I, just like yourself, I honestly cannot see how Kante makes this particular game, even though a lot of people are saying that they've seen him in the training ground. I honestly can't see how he starts this. When you've picked up whatever injury that he's picked up, I think it was a hamstring injury and whatnot, you're not coming back that quickly. Pulisic, another one with hamstring injury. I don't even think Tuchel can trust him. When you've pulled up at second half, well, just before second half against West Brom, I don't know if he can, come straight back in knowing that, Tuchel knowing that he's had that injury sort of issue. And against Porto in the Champions League, that magnitude of that particular situation is going to be a lot higher than the West Brom. Callum Hudson-Odoi, look, I don't know whether he starts. He's definitely probably going to be in the bench and might feature from the bench. So I'm not really sure whether he starts. And we will talk about the lineups. Tammy Abraham, as you said, Nishal, it's a very, very tricky one, man. And at the time, for the time being, all I can say is that I just need to trust Thomas Tuchel. So far, he's done pretty much everything right. And, we've, as a fan base, we've been very, very happy with his decision making. So I'm just going to, for the time being, just say that I'm going to back Thomas Tuchel on what he does. If by any chance all of this sort of, the whole West Brom situation continues on and we lose against Porto and then we lose against Crystal Palace or whoever we're playing next, then we can start saying that, he needs to give someone else an opportunity to mix things up. But for the time being, I'm happy with everything that he's doing. And, Tammy's just got to wait for his opportunity that comes up next. And I hope he gets some sort of minutes against Porto. But for me, it's more important to win against Porto instead of thinking about, does Tammy get any minutes? It's more important to ensure that we get the win. That's the first and foremost important thing. Aaron, let's talk about some notable absentees from Porto. Sergio Oliveira is one of the name that's been put across in the live chat. And also Taremi. Taremi, I believe, got a red card, ended up getting a second yellow. I think it turned into a red card against Juventus. So that's why he's missing out on this one. And Sergio Oliveira, I think he got too many yellow cards, which stacked up, and he misses out on this. How big of a loss is this, Aaron, for Porto in this upcoming match?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. Sergio Oliveira he's been their talisman this season. He leads the Leeds goal scorer in the Premier League, and I think very important for set pieces. We spoke before about the 4-4-2 formation. He's massive for that in its functionality, in the way that it works. He usually will play on the left hand side, and then you've got on the right hand side, and then you've got Matthias Uribe, as you see there. But he likes to dictate the game. He can sit deep, he can go forward, he can sort of do it all, and he's at a bad this time at Porto, Oliveira, and he's been there for years, but he's had so many loan periods, so many managers that have came in and took a look at him, and he hasn't really been able to get a crack at it, and dropped down to the second division and then came back up, and then he went on loan. He was playing in France, he was playing in Greece, he was at PAOK as well, and he's in the team now, and he's establishing himself as one of the most important players, and it is massive. It is massive because they haven't got a lot of depth in that area, so the midfield battle becomes a little bit easier for Chelsea there in terms of trying to dominate the game, and usually that's where the game's won and lost. You thinking now players to slot in there, the likes of Marco Grujic, players who just haven't played that much, because they do usually go for that. Uribe and Oliveira, time and time again, they both play a lot of football. So then you've also got like Fabio Vieira. They might change it up, to be honest. They might do something with Otavio and possibly bring him more centrally. It's hard to predict the lineup, to be honest, when a player like Oliveira's out, because it's like it's taking one of the most important pieces of your puzzle out and then, you know, still trying to make the picture make sense, if that makes sense. So
he was really instrumental against Juventus. From what I saw, he was a very, very good player.
Yeah, and then Taremi is the is your second top scorer. So you've got your two main sort of sources of goals, both missing from the team. Having Pepe back is massive, because it looked at one point like he wasn't going to. He was having some injury issues, but looks like he's finally got over them. And then, so yeah, it's only really those two. Sorry lads, hay fever's kicking my ass here. Yeah, so it will be difficult. It will be difficult, but in terms of forwards, it's easier to sort of replace, because they have got the likes of, say, like Musa Marega, who really loves playing in this competition. Luis Diaz, Tony Martinez, I think, is registered for the competition as well. So, yeah, Oliveira is a big one. Definitely a big miss.
No, absolutely. Before we get into the key notable sort of players to look out for, there's a question that a lot of people sort of brought this up. Can Malang Sarr play against Chelsea? He 100% can. I heard this news quite a while back that Malang Sarr is definitely eligible to play in this particular match. But before we talk about whether, you know, what sort of impact he can have and what, now, Aaron, just from your perspective, because obviously we don't get to watch FC Porto week in, week out, but how's Malang Sarr been so far for Porto, and your honest opinion on him?
It's difficult. He started off well, but he hasn't. If I'm being honest, he's not at that level yet. Whether he will grow to be at that level, then, you know, we'll wait and see. He started off, to be honest, he was in the side and he was playing well. He looked, you know, hungry and up for it, and then he was making mistakes. Sometimes his positioning isn't great, sort of his reading of the game, and then he actually played the other day for the B team. So it's a bit different in Portugal. So whereas Chelsea, if you're injured, you can, because you can have so many players over a certain age, you can play, say, for the under 23s. But it's not a competitive league. It's not like a top league, is it? It's like a development league. Whereas in Portugal, the B team play in the second division, so it's like having it's like in England having a team in the Championship, and so he's dropped down. He played in there, and he didn't look comfortable, to be honest. He didn't look comfortable in there, and there was quite a few Porto fans online saying, you know, this guy looks out of place in a second division game. But then when you're not playing, it's hard to have that consistency. So, I mean, we'll see. But he did start off well. I was excited, to be honest. I remember putting out a few tweets like on Próxima Jornada talking about, you know, he might be one to look out for, but it looks like Conceição has sort of made his mind up defensively. He's always going to go with the likes of Pep and Bemba, and then in terms of fullbacks, he's got Nanu, Saidu, Manafar. So, I still think there's a player in there, but I think the whole point with going to Porto this season was that Chelsea knew that he wasn't ready to play in the Premier League. So the whole thing was, because he was signed and loaned out instantly, if I'm right. So he hasn't actually played a game for Chelsea yet. So it was sort of bring him in at a relatively low cost, I think, and then loan him to Porto, which has been known as his development, as a breeding ground for players. Let him get some experience, let him play. Some players can play at that level, some players just can't, and it's also a different style of football. So we'll see. But I mean, I can't see him being, you know, sort of thrown in. It might be. I just saw someone. Do you see
Porto keeping him? Do you see Porto keeping him till for next season, or do you see them sort of parting ways?
Yeah, I don't think he'll stay. I don't think. I mean, like, I saw that comment that came up then. A lot of people have said it was a small buy. If you can try and, you know, send them somewhere, get him some experience, and then sell him on for a profit, that might be whether he goes back to France. and just shows he uses this last year or 2 years as development. But at the minute, he's not. Porto aren't in a position where it's financially viable enough for them to take a gamble on a player who hasn't cut it really. So, but to be honest, it doesn't matter the calibre of player. Sometimes you don't work out. They loaned Felipe Anderson this season from West Ham. He's been awful. He's been terrible. Doesn't get anywhere near the team. Wow. So it's honestly it's different leagues. It's different players, and I think if you're not willing with a manager like Conceição, it's very. If you're not willing to be 100% in on the cause, then which I'm not suggesting Sarr isn't, by the way, because from what I see, he looks like a very game, young, hungry player who wants to impress. But I think, as I said before, right at the start of the show, players who make mistakes, especially those sort of younger players, he does like to go for the more experienced players, the ones that he can count on. He doesn't so much want players who are learning the trade. That's why a lot of Porto fans are frustrated with him, because the likes of Fabio Vieira, the likes of Thomas Tuchel loaned out to Reading, Fabio Silva scoring last night for Wolves, who's starting to sort of show people that he is actually 18 years old. Would he have been better staying at Porto? Yes, but then on the other hand, would it have? Because he wouldn't have played. Conceição wouldn't have played him. He would have went with, loaning in someone like Tony Martinez, someone who's a little bit older, Moussa Marega, Luis Diaz, Mehdi Taremi, signing established players that they know can play at this level. But in terms of keeping Sarr any further, unless it was they thought they could then sort of sell him. But I just don't think they're in a position financially enough to secure someone. They have to be really careful and picky about who they buy and who they loan. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just one of those things.
No, absolutely. I'll let you take a little bit of a break. I think you're struggling a little there with the hay fever.
I'm going to go and get a drink at it.
Yeah. Thank you. Come back to it, mate. Nishal, whilst Aaron's sorting himself out, let's talk about some key Chelsea players. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion over here. From your perspective, man, that was a shambolic performance against West Brom. So we need to come out of that quick, smart. Who are some of the players, in your perspective, in this particular tie, that you're really looking forward to doing a trick against Porto?
If he's fully fit, I would love to see Callum Hudson-Odoi play, because he's the perfect sort of player for these sort of games. And even against West Brom, I felt that, look, we were playing a low-block team, a team who was very defensive. We're going to sit back. And while they did surprise us and attacking a bit more, Hudson-Odoi would have been perfect to be there breaking the line. So it did surprise me.
Which position, though? Which position?
Probably right wing back. I think Reece James did well with his physicality. That's always one of his strong points. But Hudson-Odoi on that flank in behind, I think it was Ziyech who started that game. I think would have really helped, because we know as well with Ziyech, when he's got that space created from the wing back, he flourishes more and he benefits more. So having Hudson-Odoi play would be really good. We're not sure, of course, if he'll be fully fit. I would say the midfield pivot as well, and that makes it really, really difficult, because anyone can say that Jorginho and Kovacic had a shocking game. I suffer with hay fever as well, so if I start sneezing, it makes two of us. Hay fever in this country, it's not nice.
I managed to. I kept these in though, so I managed to listen when I went downstairs still.
Jorginho and Kovacic is a funny old thing, because they can perform brilliantly like we've seen on Tuchel, but West Brom was their worst performance and they were absolutely diabolical.
I'm worried. That performance worried me, Nisha. I hope
worried.
They don't do that again.
And we're stuck in a dilemma, because N'Golo Conte, like we've both said, I don't think he's going to be fully fit. And if we do play him, it will be like Baku, where we rushed him back to full fitness, gave that 90 minutes we needed, and then he was out for 3 months. It's not worth it. Let him recover. Let him get back to his best for his final stretch of the season, and even the Euros, which I'm sure he'll be in contention for. Billy Gilmour, this isn't the game for him. Look, he's a brilliant young talent. We all love him. We're all massive fans of him. But playing Billy Gilmour in a Champions League quarter-final against Porto doesn't make sense. And especially when you consider who we've got, Jorginho and Kovacic. And we know what they're capable of. And it's a really weird thing where we can see them perform, like I said, at the top of their game against Tottenham, Atletico Madrid, against the best teams. And then we can see disaster classes like that against West Brom. So it'll be interesting to see which pivot turns up. Will it be the world-class, almost title-challenging pivot? Or will it be the mistake-prone, sloppy, just wasteful pivot? So that midfield is going to be crucial. Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. Timo Werner, or whoever plays up front. I think Olivier Giroud is the perfect striker for us. We've had this debate, no one knows who our best striker is. Let's be honest. We've gone a whole season and
we don't have one. We don't have one.
We have 3 brilliant strikers, but there's no out-and-out number 9 who will be starting week in, week out, because we don't know who that player is. For this, Olivier Giroud, you've got him scored 4 goals against Sevilla already, knows the stadium, but based on his actual game, this is the perfect sort of game for him on the European stage, turning up when it matters, really challenging the Porto defence. I would love to see a battle between Giroud and Pepe. That would just be nostalgia all the way. It'd be fantastic to watch. So I do hope Giroud gets the nod up front. I'll trust Tuchel's decision, but if I could choose, I'd keep Jorginho and Kovacic in midfield, keep Giroud up top, and then Hudson-Odoi. Maybe I would like to keep Jameson, so maybe Hudson-Odoi out wide instead of someone like Ziyech or Pulisic, who will probably be out injured.
Yeah, no, fair point. We will obviously discuss our lineup. I think we're going to have a bit of arguments on a few of the players. But, for me, the key players will be, I think, Kai Havertz. I completely understand your point about playing Giroud up front against someone like Pepe, that experience. I feel like Kai Havertz could do the trick here. He didn't play, the entire game against West Brom, and he's been playing very well at the false 9 position. So I feel like Kai Havertz will be a good sort of player for that particular scenario. Ziyech, even though he wasn't that great in the whatever small minutes that he got against West Brom, he was unlucky to be taken off due to the red card. Champions League, we've seen it against Atletico Madrid, what he did. I feel like this is the stage where he thrives, so I'd like to see him do well again. And the other one, obviously, as you said, the double sixes, man, they better turn up, because if they don't turn up, I think we're going to be destroyed. So they better turn up. Kante not featuring. I think Kante won't feature. But the one player that I'm fully expecting Michel to come back in defense, and I think is going to be a very big player for us, is Rudiger. I need Rudiger back. Rudiger with his absolute.
I thought you were going to say Thiago Silva. So it's not
Thiago Silva. I saw you nod. I'm like, I think he's nodding because it's Thiago Silva. Look, Thiago Silva for me starts anyway. So I know a lot of people are going to talk about on discussions, but for me, Thiago Silva starts. But it's Rudiger on the left centre back. Zuma had a calamity. He had an absolute calamity in that West Brom match. And not just that, Rudiger has been flawless besides that own goal. Really, he's been flawless. And his attitude, that beast sort of hustling nature of his, I need that in the team to be able to stand up against the opposition and really look eye to eye with them and really, muscle up against them. I need that. Rudiger needs to start this particular match. So for me, it's very important. Aaron, from your perspective, from Porto perspective, obviously Sergio Oliveira, big miss. Taremi, another big miss. But besides those two, who are some of the key players that we need to look out for?
You've got Otavio Monteiro, who's he sort of can play across that midfield. Loves to get on the ball and dictate. Loves to move into those sort of pockets and play between the lines. He's on, I think, 5 goals this season and 8 assists. And then you've got Corona as well, Tectito, just Corona, he's on like 12 assists for the season. I think he leads the team for assists. So he's another creator. He's just a magnificent footballer, to be honest. He's a joy to watch. So
I think he was linked with Chelsea last season. I'm not sure if there was any truth behind it.
He's been linked with a few clubs over the past couple of years, and you can see why. Technically, he's fantastic.
Very good player.
It's good. It will be good to see him. I think Chelsea, if they want to sort of nullify Porto, they want to sort of nullify those two. They're the ones who are looking, especially because they're not going to have a lot of the ball. So when they do get the ball, they have to be very careful into the way that they distribute it, the way that they transition, who are they giving the ball to, and it will be the likes of Otavio and Corona that will spring forward into these attacks. So and then a little bit of a wild card is Francisco Conceição, who's a player a lot of people might not know about.
That's the son. That's the son of the.
That's Sergio Conceição's son. Yeah. He's just, honestly, I don't like hyping up like hyping him up too much. But from what we've seen of him this season, he's been just amazing. He hasn't started. He comes off the bench, plays like the last 10, 15 minutes, but he's playing more and more and more. And he's actually had he's had a lot of comparisons to Leo Messi, which is obviously
here we go.
Which is when people what people like to do though. So I think is that people like to compare any player who's small and who likes to dribble, and they go, "Oh, yeah, he's the next Messi." But with the when you watch him, he does it because he doesn't do a lot of skills, doesn't do a lot of tricks the same way like Leo doesn't. He's that sort of loves the drop of the shoulder, loves to feint. He's got a low center of gravity. He came on, I think it was against Boavista in the derby, which is like because they're located in Porto as well, so that's like quite a high octane game. And he came on, took it past like 3 players, won a penalty, and then since then, whenever he comes in the side, he makes an impact. So he won't start, but he will come on in either one of the legs and possibly in both as a substitute, especially if they need something on the counter, something quick. If you get a chance to if he comes on, just keep your eye on him. His dribbling, he's just, I mean, how he'll fare on this stage if he does play is obviously a different task than playing in the Premier League. But no, he's not nowhere near Messi's level yet, but he just love watching his dribbling. He has his father's fire. He does. He does.
Shout out to Rabona TV, man. Thanks for joining.
He can for a small guy, he's got a hot head, but so is Conceição in Portugal. He has a reputation of being a bit of a fiery character. I think he's one to keep an eye on. They've got difference makers there, as I say. They like Luis Diaz when he plays.
What about Marega? I really like Marega a lot up front.
He especially he's got a really good record in the Champions League. He's very hit and miss for some Porto fans because he has statistics. He puts goals, but I think it's the same way, as I say. Porto can get results, but people don't sort of like the way they play, and I think he's quite atypical of that as well. You know, he's not the most pleasing on the eye, but in a Champions League game, when you're playing on the counter attack as well, someone that's strong and he's quick, and he can finish as well. You see, he's I think he might be Porto's, especially in recent seasons, has been their top scorer in the Champions League. He's been the main source of goals in the Champions League. So you've got him, as I say, attacking players, but it's just that I think that midfield area will be lacking a little bit without Sergio Oliveira. So I think in terms of, and I know you mentioned before, Kai Havertz, he still gives me nightmares from the last time he played against Porto.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you guys last time?
I was in I was there in Leverkusen. That was, to be honest, that was the last away game before COVID. I think it was like February 25th or 26th or something like that. It was in Leverkusen, and I was like, who is this kid? This just stood so like amongst everyone else. He looked like he was like 10 feet tall. He was by far and away the best player on the pitch, and I was like, who is this kid? And and like obviously I'd heard about him in the Bundesliga and stuff, but he just ran the show. He ran the show with like experienced players on the pitch, and I thought, well, and then when he went to Chelsea, I was like, nah, this guy's a scary talent. And I know so far he might not have, some people are, happy with how he's progressing. And then I think at the end of the day, when you move to a new league and you're young, it's that adaptation period, and also different teams playing different systems, and you sometimes have to find time to accommodate. Look at talking about Sergio Oliveira before. He weren't bought, he came sort of through the academy, but it took him a couple of years to get to the level. I know he wasn't hyped to be, as big as Kai Havertz has been hyped in his young career, but sometimes it just takes, 2-3 seasons to sort of get to that level. But I mean, to be honest, he's a player I do like Kai Havertz, and especially from like a neutral perspective, I enjoyed, sort of watching him, and so hope he sort of kicks on, because as soon as that game finished, I was like, whoever buys him, in the Premier League, I was like, they've got a player there. They've got a player. So I was like, I hate being wrong. So I hope he really kicks on for Chelsea, to be honest. Just not against Porto.
I hope it starts against Porto. But it's crazy what you've said, because I recently saw a really good interview in Matisse's channel, who's another Chelsea content creator, where Gabriel Marcotti was there, and Marcotti had some high praise about Kai Havertz. So, I hope our fan base, I definitely have complete faith in Kai Havertz. He will turn supreme for us. Nishal, let's get straight into the lineup, my man. It's interesting to start, to talk about this. I don't think we're going to change the formation. Obviously we got battered against West Brom, but I don't think it's time to change the formation. I still believe we're going to go with the 3 at the back, with the wing backs and whatnot, and obviously 3 up front. It's probably going to look something like this, how we always play with the 2 inside forwards with someone up front. So let's do this, Nishal. Let's try and sort of come to a middle ground. I'll kick things off. I think it's going to be Mendy. I don't think Kepa is going to get an opportunity in this game. Would you agree, Mendy?
Yep, no debate there.
Brilliant. All right, I'm going to do the back line. You let me know as soon as I'm done with this whether you agree or not. And, we'll then discuss why we've gone with this. I'm going with the Aspi, Thiago, Silva, and Rudiger back 3, because I'm not going to just disregard Thiago Silva just because he had that performance against West Brom. And to be honest, I don't even think it was a bad performance. He's just been put into a bad situation, which led to his yellow cards. Obviously, the second one where Nishai, you and me, we both agreed that he probably didn't need to lunge like that. But then again, he was put into a tough scenario. And Rudiger, for me, comes back. He's been absolutely flawless besides that own goal. And for me, that attitude, I need that attitude, that beast mode attitude, I need that back. So that's a back 3 for me. What's your thoughts, Nishal? You keeping with that, or any shout out for Andres Christensen?
Yeah, the only debate in that back 4 we've picked already is, do we go for Antonio Rudiger or Andreas Christensen as the left centre-back? And I'm happy about, Rudiger, like you said perfectly, he's been brilliant on Tuchel, credit where credit's due, he's really been a resurgent player, bar that own goal. Atletico Madrid was a perfect example of how he can step up on that European stage. So yeah, I'm happy about back 3. And Thiago Silva, again, look, I don't think his half-hour cameo was not good against West Brom, but to drop him after that doesn't make sense. He didn't play well against West Brom. He should have done better. He shouldn't have been sent off. That's in the past. When in a European game, these are the games we've built him for. And especially, look at it this way. He got an effective hour break against West Brom, and he's also going to get the day off against Crystal Palace. Day off, you know what I mean? But he won't be playing against Crystal Palace. He'll be there in the stands, I know that. But he won't be playing against Crystal Palace. So why wouldn't you play him? This is the only game he can play in for the next week and a half. So he's got to be starting on half defence.
100%. Agreed. Let's now move on to the wing backs. For me, I cannot see Alonso again.
Yeah.
That was shambolic. So that's straight away, I think that's an easy selection. He is where it gets very tricky for me as well, Nishal. You did say Callum Hudson-Odoi. For me, Callum as well, but at the same time, I don't want to disregard Porto with their ability to counter very well. So Reece James didn't have a very good game against West Brom either, but defensively he is better. But attackingly, we do need Callum Hudson-Odoi. And this being the away leg, and without Sergio Oliveira and Taremi, I think I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to go with Callum Hudson-Odoi now, whether Thomas Tuchel actually uses him, because lately he actually hasn't even been using him in the wing back position. Well, he did in the last one, but a few times he's actually been using him in these sort of areas. What's your thoughts on the wing backs? Are you happy with Chilwell and Callum Hudson-Odoi?
My main thing is, with going off meritocracy, Alonso and James were pretty poor against West Brom, and we cannot be starting them in this game. Chilwell, I'm happy to start. I've got trust in him. Like I said, he's not the most adept wing back, I would say, but he's still capable of doing a job, and he's still a good player to be playing in this back 3, back 5. Hudson-Odoi, the reason I would go for him is, look, we're playing the away leg, so the priority needs to be on scoring and getting away goals. So we need to have that more attacking threat with Callum Hudson-Odoi. Then we can switch to Reece James in the second leg if we need to maybe not be defensive and sit back, but just be more cautious when we're going back, like you spoke about the counter-attack. And it was the same against Atletico Madrid. I said Hudson-Odoi in the first leg, James in the second leg, because we're going off a situation of dilemmas. In the first leg, we need to go for it. We need to get our away goal. We saw what that did against Atletico. We need to do that on Wednesday.
And Porto are down a couple of key players, so we really need to take advantage of that.
And I was going to touch on that when Aaron was speaking about Porto's key players. I think we need to really take advantage and capitalise on Sergio Oliveira's absence, because while there are still dangerous players, Jesus Corona is one who really stands out for me, and there are a lot of other dangerous players. It's a huge advantage that we're missing, in my opinion, one of Porto's main talismans. So we need to take advantage of that, really hit them on the break and get as many goals as possible. So Hudson-Odoi is a natural choice. Should I do the midfield? Or I think we're
let's go. You do the midfield, and then I'll agree on.
Well, we've kind of spoken on this already. I think we're in agreement. Jorginho and Kovacic have to be the starting midfield, and I can understand why there will be debate about this after Saturday. And maybe it sounds naive or an ill-advised comment, but bar West Brom, do Kovacic and Jorginho really deserve to be dropped? For me, no. Conte is not going to be fully fit, even if we do play him for a full 90 minutes on Wednesday. Like I said, it would just be another case of, getting him ready and kind of patching him up for this leg, and then he'd be out for a month. Like, it's not worth it. Save him for this game, stick with Kovacic and Jorginho and wait for Conte to be fully fit, back to his best, because we've got a crucial 2 months ahead. Gilmour, this isn't a game for him to come into, right? Sheffield United was a good game for him to come into. He played really well. I was really happy to see him. He played really well with Kovacic. But for a Champions League quarter-final against Porto, no. And let's be really, he's a good player. Yes, he's fantastic. But a 19-year-old playing against the Portuguese champions, I don't want to see that, and to be really honest. So Kovacic and Jorginho, they have to be the midfield for me.
Yeah, and I have to agree. If we expect that Conte is probably not going to start, as much as Tuchel probably wants him to get back into the team ASAP off the back of that performance that we saw against West Brom, he probably wants Conte back, but I can't see Conte starting. And as you said, Nishal, so far Jorginho and Kovacic have been very good, and this is the first time they've been very poor against West Brom. And for it to happen back to back is massive, rare occasion. And if it does happen, well, that's it. I'm pretty sure they're not going to probably feature anymore together. But for the time being, I will back Kovacic and Jorginho. And as you said, the whole ideology of putting Billy Gilmour in this particular match does not make sense to me, because it's a very, very high-profile match. So I agree with the midfield pivot. Do you want to start with the 10s?
Yeah, well, I'll go over front three and see what you say, because this is, I think, the most contentious position of a pitch, because we know we've lacked our cutting edge, we don't take our chances. Yes, we scored 2 goals against West Brom, but we conceded 5. So what does that matter? So the front three is really, really important. I'm going to go for Mason Mount on the left, Olivier Giroud up top, and Hakim Ziyech on the right. I think that's our strongest front three. Like I said, I've kind of spoken about Giroud already. He's a perfect target man to be playing for this sort of game. He's the player we need in these Champions League games, like Silva, like Atletico. He would be perfect, and I want to see him leaving the line. He has to. Mason Mount, of course, we always miss him when he's not on the pitch. Look at West Brom. We were flat and lacking cutting edge up front. Look at, I think it was Atletico Madrid's second leg. We still played well, but we're still missing our play and going between the lines. It's really there, really active. We miss that sort of player when we don't have Mason Mount, and he has to be there. There's no debate about that. Hakim Ziyech, I will be honest, you did influence my decision a bit. You speaking about it, it's right. He is a good Champions League player. Well done, Ziyech remains, but he is a good Champions League player. He is someone who can be playing and plays at that top level. Timo Werner hasn't been good enough, and we, look at his confidence. He's not. This isn't a game for him. Hudson-Odoi is playing as a wing back. Pulisic is injured, and even if he is playing, is he really going to be fully fit? Let's be honest, probably not. And then, Kai Havertz is another option. Like we said, he played very well against Porto. It would be interesting to see maybe Mount and Havertz, but I would like to have a winger. So that's the front three I want to go for, to really go out there, get that away goal, and seize control of the tie.
Look, you know what, Nishal, I'm so glad that you've switched to Ziyech selection, because, for me, that would have been a non-negotiable. You would not have won against me. So I'm very happy with Ziyech. And 100%, Mason Mount, he comes back. He's probably one of the most important player for Thomas Tuchel. So he definitely comes back. His he probably wouldn't have come on that early in that West Brom match. Obviously, gets himself that goal, but he was involved in a couple of the goals we conceded, but that game was already dead by then. But his pressing ability is going to be a massive shock for Porto, and obviously he's been chipping in with some goals in recent times. So for me, Mason Mount comes back, and as I said, he's one of the most important players for Thomas Tuchel, so he definitely comes back. In regards to the front sort of player, Nishal, I would go with Kai Havertz because of his ability to drop deep. He's got that passing ability, linking up over here with midfield, allowing space for Mason Mount and Ziyech to then attack these sort of areas. And obviously, you know, Kai, his passing ability is very good as well, so he can find those passes. And aerially, he's tall, so he's not that bad. But I do understand your point of view about Giroud, because in Europe, Giroud turns into a beast, and then his experience is going to count a lot. But you know, Kai Havertz got experience in beating Porto as well. So look, I would like to see Kai Havertz, but I'm not going to be upset if I see Olivier Giroud. I'll leave it to the live chat to sort of decide what they want in regards to that. But I'm happy with this team, Nishal, with Mendy at the back, Rudy, Thiago Silva, Azpilicueta, Kalamatana-Doi, Chilwell, Kovacic, Jorginho, Mason Mount, Ziyech, and Giroud. Live chat, let us know what your thoughts are in regards to that team. Aaron, how do you feel about that Chelsea team?
Yeah, it's strong. I mean, it's always going to be difficult to come up against a team like Chelsea when they've got that sort of depth, you know, and some of the players that we're talking about not being sort of informed. There are players that play at that top level, as you say before, the likes of Kovacic and Jorginho. They might not have impressed against West Brom, but that's two players who know what it's like to sort of play in these type of games, these matches of this magnitude, and as I say, that when you're coming into it as FC Porto, same way when they came into the Juventus game, you're coming up against, you know, you're coming into it as the underdog, and teams that have just got, you know, players and a squad that's a lot more stacked, and obviously that's due to the, you know, financial viability of it, being a top being a team within a top 5 league, and then being in a team in England, which is obviously the most sort of flush for cash, and they generate them more revenue and stuff. So it'll always be difficult, but yeah, I think Porto, it's sort of, you know what they're going to go with. They'll go with the 4-4-2, and
let's do the Porto lineup while we're at it, since we're talking about this. Let's actually get that done. Let's go. So you think it'll be a 4-4-2? Yeah, that's the formation that they generally play with.
Yeah, I mean, he could spring a surprise and try and play in order to counter the sort of the back three, but I don't know. Is this the type of game to go against your beliefs and go against the formation that you regularly use and sort of switch it up? Because then if it doesn't go right, then, you know, so yeah, no, it's one of those. But no, yeah, I think it'll be pretty much it's a fairly easy team to recite, bar Taremi and Sergio Oliveira. So I think in goal they'll have Augustin Marchesine, who's
I'm going to butcher some of these names. Nishal, help me out, man.
It's a proper spelling test for you today.
I'm just going to say Marchesine.
They actually just call him. They call him just March, so he just has Marche on some of his to help him out.
Perfect, Aaron.
That's fine for you, isn't it? And then your left side of centre. The left back. I think they'll probably go with Zaidu. So that's Z. You can just put Z. That's Zaidu. Yeah, and then left side of the centre half and right side of the centre half will be Pep and Chancellor Mbembe. So that'll be, which is, again, pretty much...
Mbembe? Is that it?
Mbembe, yeah, that's the one. Nice, and Mbembe, yeah. And then right back will be Wilson Manafa, I think he's fit, so yeah, it'll be Manafa.
Say Wilson.
And then
that's easier to write down.
And then in midfield, this is sort of on the central midfield. You've got Mateus Uribe will start, so he will play an important player, and then you usually
is he sort of more of a holding midfielder, Uribe?
No, so to be honest, out of the pair of them, they don't have like an out-and-out number 6, and one is like further forward. They do sort of play adjacent to each other. Like Oliveira will drop back and then Uribe, but he can create as well as sort of break up play. It's not like he's not like, as I say, he's not an out-and-out number 6, which Porto used to play with, sort of, you know, in the likes of like Danilo Pereira used to play a little bit deeper, who's now obviously at PSG. And then I think the other central midfielder, to be honest, can't really look past Marco Grujic. I mean, he's not my favourite player, but I think...
I'm going to say Marco.
Yeah. The thing is, they could switch it up and they could find a way to get Fabio Vieira in there, who's obviously young, but he's very, very talented. He was just with the 21s in the Euros, where Portugal obviously put in a fantastic performance there. So, you know, that'll be interesting. And then I say left and right. I think on the right hand side it'll be Corona, Tecatito, and then on the left hand side Otavio. But the thing is, they're very fluid, those two. So because sometimes like Corona
probably just like switch sides. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's they'll move about, because Corona can play on the left and the right. Corona can play as a wing back. So if they did decide to try and match Chelsea, man for man, and go with like a back three, then all they'll have to do there really is just add.
Do you reckon there's a possibility of that, Aaron? Like, is Sergio Conceição a particular manager that would match up?
They could do, to be honest. I mean, because they know that he's played there. I mean, I wouldn't say in a game of this magnitude is this the time for him to make such a big change. But he's played it before, as I say. Corona's played as a wing back. Manafar can play as a wing back, and then sort of having those three central defenders maybe gives you a bit more. Takes the pressure off, and they've got other defenders that can come in there. The likes of Diogo Leite can come in and play in the middle of the three. But I think in terms of just to play it safe, the 4-4-2, and then I think at the front two, again, interchangeable, because Luis Diaz can sort of come out to the left-hand side and the right-hand side. He's adept on both sides, but it'll be Luis Diaz and Moussa Marega, you'd think. This is where I'm completely wrong, and he changes the whole team. But I think it'd be pretty much something like that. I know he played a similar team earlier on in the season when I don't think it was exactly that, but he played because Sergio Oliveira was suspended, I think, or injured against when he played Ferenc in the Liga, and he played that. They had Grujic and Uribe in midfield, and but obviously they had Taremi up front as well rather than Luis Diaz, and I think they played Corona on the left. But it'll be pretty much that. I say
more or less this sort of team. Yeah,
he's sort of the one to watch. I keep referring to him because I never refer to him as Corona in Portugal. They always refer to him as Tecatito. So I keep people must be thinking Corona and Tecatito, are they the same person? Or so he's obviously, you know, one to watch. And then I've got players on the bench who can come off and make a difference. As I say, the likes of Chico Conceição is one to watch. But no, I think this, with it being the home leg, I think the priority is just don't concede. I say home leg, I mean it's in Sevilla, but I think it's one of those. I think you don't concede. You're going into this with a weaker team than what you'll have for the away leg. Obviously, you haven't got Oliveira in the midfield. You haven't got one of your top scorers in Mehdi Taremi, so it will be difficult. But I think if they can just stay disciplined, stay switched on, what sort of not killed them because they still qualified, but what hurt them a little bit was in the first leg against Juventus. They were in complete control. They were absolutely dominating the game, and then they conceded to that second half. The Chiesa goal, was it? And that then it's just that goal. It's that split second you took your eye off the ball, and it throws the whole tie into sort of disarray. And then the second leg, it was a lot more dramatic than I think it had to be. If you can keep a clean sheet in the first leg, then you go into it in a much better position. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but stopping Chelsea from scoring will will be a task. Will be a proper tough task, but if they hit, not so much like park the bus, because they'll still want to counter, they'll want to get a goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you give them a 0-0, and I think that's where the neutral venues comes into it, because you go, would you take a 0-0? Well, in an ideal world, not really, because then you've got to go to Stamford Bridge, and the chances are Chelsea are going to, Chelsea probably will score playing at Stamford Bridge. You're away from home. You give yourself the work to do. But now, would you take your 0-0? Well, you go, yeah, because we're just going to the same stadium that we've just played in, except now our goals count for 2. So I think if they could get a 0-0 draw, I think they'd be very happy with it, because say they can go back to Sevilla in the game after and nick a goal. Who knows? But I think they've got to keep it together. They can't capitulate. They've got to learn from the mistakes of the Liverpool games. They've got to sort of stay in the game for as long as possible. Just basically do exactly what they did against Juventus. It's playing against a different side. In Chelsea, you're playing against a better side, in my opinion, than Juventus. They're a side who are in transition. They've got a young manager in there who learning his trade sort of thing. Obviously, he was brilliant as a player, but then I think that they'd much rather have played against Chelsea a couple of months ago, when they were sort of in that same position that you could say that Juventus are in that transition. Lots of new players came in, young manager, fairly inexperienced, but now they've brought someone in Tuchel who, the form recently speaks for itself. He's a fantastic coach, in my opinion, and I don't think, don't get me wrong, I don't think Porto and Conceição are going to be watching clips of that West Brom game and going, yeah, I feel like we've got more of a chance now, because now that game's out the window.
But by the way, it's a good point that you brought up, Aaron. Like, do the Porto fans think, obviously they would have had one eye on the West Brom match, how Chelsea were doing, but do they actually think, I think we have a chance here, we could probably roll them over?
No, you don't take anything from. We won't take anything from that West Brom game. At the end of the day in the Premier League, anything can happen when you go down to 10 men. Then it's more of a test about not how good you are as a team. It's a test of your mentality and can you not capitulate. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the first time that Chelsea has been down to 10 men under Tuchel. At this point, I don't know whether that's right, but it's one of those things. It'll be something that Chelsea learn from, and all right, it's not the best time for it to have happened, but they'd much rather if it happened in the West Brom game than go down to 10 men against Porto, a side who can punish arguably more than a West Brom team can. So it's the Premier League this season. How many of these freak results have we saw? Villa put 7 past Liverpool. It's just been one of those seasons, I think, where, especially with having no fans in the stadium, I feel like a lot of these results don't happen if there's fans there, because you sort of feel the magnitude of the occasion a bit more. And we've saw so many just capitulations this season that I don't think Porto will be watching that and thinking, oh yeah, we've got a chance here. They don't learn anything from that game. You don't learn anything from watching 10v11. And if anything, Chelsea will learn from it. If they go down to 10 men again, they know not what to do. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know what it is. So it's a learning curve. It's one of those things. These results happen. And I think, as I say, it's still going to be a tough test. Porto fans at this point, no one expected them to get past Juventus. Again, they're in the next round. No one expects them to get past Chelsea. If they get past Chelsea, no one's going to expect them to get past Madrid or Liverpool. So it's one of those things. They just want to stay in the competition for as long as they can and stay on this journey. But it'll be very, very tough, especially this first, like with so many sort of big absentees. But I am really looking forward to it, to be honest.
No, absolutely. No, well said. Nishal, let's get into the score prediction. We've seen both lineups, the Chelsea lineup, the Porto lineup, predicted lineup. Live chat, massive thank you to you guys. 54 people. There was about close to 60 people on live. Please smash that like button and please go out there and follow Nishal and Aaron. All their socials are in the description right now. If you want to follow them in Twitter or Nishal's blog, it's all there. Just before we wrap things up, obviously the Chelsea press conference, the Porto press conference, is going to happen very, very soon. Nishal, your score prediction for this particular match?
I'm going to go for 2-1 Chelsea. It's going to be a tough game. I do think we will concede. I can't see Porto kind of staying off. They're going to go for it. Both of us will. And, I was going to say 1-1 originally, but I remember that I said about Atletico as well in the first leg, and we know what happened there. But it will be a tight game. You're really interesting first leg. We'll see how it turns out. We'll see what the approaches are. I'm sure Chelsea will go for it. Tuchel will know that we need to get our first leg advantage, while Porto will want to make the most of the home advantage, even if we'll be back there. But it's going to be a fascinating tie, one I really can't wait for. And, it's going to be a very worthy semi-final spot for either of these teams, because over these two legs, we're going to see some brilliant football from Sergio Conceição, Thomas Tuchel. It's brilliant players, top of their game. And, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be a great tie. If you've enjoyed what you heard, you can follow me on Twitter @Nishal_SP. You can check out all of my work, articles, videos, podcasts on nishalsblog.com. And if you're not already, go subscribe to Miz, the other side of a coin, and go follow Aaron at Próxima Jornada. It's some of the best Portuguese content you're going to find around. But thank you for having me on today.
Brilliant, man. As you said, guys, go and do all of that, what Nishal just said. My prediction is Chelsea 1-0. That's what I'm predicting. I think we should be able to go back to basics, what we did under Thomas Tuchel so far, get that clean sheet. Porto are missing some of their key players, so hopefully we capitalize on that. But then again, we find it very difficult to score. So I'm hoping for that 1-0 against Porto, and then we try and negotiate against them in the second leg. So that's my prediction. We'll let Aaron wrap things up. Aaron, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go for 1-1. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. See, it's not the greatest result in the world, especially with the away goal. But I think it'll go into the second leg quite balanced, and Porto will just be hoping get those players back and make a real go of it in the second leg. But I can't see them keeping Chelsea from scoring, to be honest. So, but I don't think I do think Porto will score. I think the danger is on the counter attack. So
I'll take a 3-0. I'll definitely take a 3-0.
Yeah. Let's hope not.
But thank you heaps, Aaron, for all your time that you've given us. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. I'm pretty sure we're going to have you back for the second leg just before that, so it'd be very, very good. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You got 2-1 from Nishal, you got a 1-0 victory from me, and you got a 1-0 from Aaron. Hope you guys have enjoyed this stream a lot. As I said, thank you so much for the support. Please smash that like button right now. Helps the channel, helps the video a lot as well. And we'll see you guys. I do have just quick couple of announcements from my channel. I've just put on a Tammy Abraham video, which give me 1 second. Let me just actually give you guys the link while we add it, so that way you guys have it ready for yourself. So just bear with me while I get that done. So guys, check out this Tammy Abraham video for the 54 people that are on. I've just uploaded that, my thoughts on Tammy Abraham's article from Matt Law. So check that out. And you will get a vlog of my holiday tomorrow. Some just light sort of content, nothing Chelsea related, just me, a different side of me, the other side of Miz, basically, totally away from football. So do check out that
side of the coin.
The other side of the coin. But guys, the next time you'll get some Chelsea content is the review of the match. Hopefully we play well, and Nishal will be back. Obviously, Taron will be back, and we may have a surprise guest on that particular review. Jonathan will be on break for about a couple of months. He is moving places, so his setup is not ready. So Jonathan will be away. So guys, until next time, everyone, take care and see you.
Cheers. Nice on.